Can you hear?
We're competing against ice cream here, so I thought we'd wait just a few more minutes, or maybe 1 minute. Welcome to the session on administrative systems, build or buy or build. My name is June Liebert. I'm from the University of Texas School of Law. And I actually had this very boring background until I talked to Ken and he said, you gotta use your school logo. So I changed it. So now you're stuck with gray. But anyway, this is Ken Wu from Northwestern University. And we are kind of on somewhat polar opposite extremes. We build most of our systems at the University of Texas, and Ken tends to buy most of it. So we'll have probably rather varying viewpoints on this, so we're hoping to make this more interactive. So which should you choose? What's the correct answer? There isn't one. Obviously, it's a spectrum. Most people are going to buy some systems, build others, or you're going to buy a system and then build, onto the end of it. There's a wide variety of approaches. I have this lovely video, which may or may not work. Can you hear that? Yeah, unfortunately I can't. What I can do is, I'll just add the URL to this, but basically we have a lovely website, the University of Texas does, and this video is on there. It's, if you go to the University of Texas general website, it's www.utexas.edu, put a slash, and then it's its/EIS/bybuild. I think it's bybuild. utexas.edu EIS/bybuild. You can watch this video, as well as they have several case studies, some of which I'll go over today. But it's a really good site. They also have a bibliography of some articles you can look at. So one of the systems that we looked at was for course management, and as you can see, we looked at a lot of different systems. This was done enterprise-wide, so it was the whole university, not just the law school. We just didn't have enough developers to do it, so they decided to buy, and they decided to choose Blackboard. And the main reason is because Blackboard was actually capable of integrating with our existing mainframe system, and they were kind of the only ones who could. Now, what's interesting is that since we bought Blackboard in 2000, the university has been developing something called CLIPS. And what's funny to me is that slowly over time, CLIPS has become kind of a course management system. The latest feature is that you can now upload documents to it, like a syllabus or course materials. So I suspect over time that it will likely replace Blackboard. But we'll see. The nice thing about CLIPS is that because it is tied into everything else, you can do things like pull up your roster easily. It has photos. It pulls ID photos. So you can get a photo roster. You can arrange them in seating chart order. They have a really nice system that we just use because it works really well. They had a lot of problems with Blackboard because it was buggy. They didn't really bring in enough faculty. The faculty resisted at first. We had a lot of data integration challenges. The problem is because the system was outside, we have a lot of data loads down and up, and that caused a lot of problems for us. For example, the roster is never truly the most up-to-date roster because it's the 1 or 2 days later roster. That's really hard to explain to faculty. But overall, the Blackboard project has gone very well, and we have a lot of users. UT Direct is another project that the university took on, and they decided to build in this case. As you can see, we had a lot of different problems. An interesting one is that we couldn't advertise on our website, and I guess back then in 2000, some products were cheaper if you would allow them to advertise, to put in advertising, and we weren't allowed to do that because of the Regents rules. So we decided to build. We looked at a lot of different tool sets, but because of the time involved, they decided to use something locally homegrown that talks to our mainframe directly, and it's something called Web Agent. So it was very successful. It cost $500,000, but you know, we actually got a quote for PeopleSoft, and I think for the university size of ours, for everything, it was something like $100 million. So, you know, $500,000 is kind of a drop in the bucket in comparison. That's not even including the maintenance costs. Now, at the law school, we also have faced a lot of the same decisions. And we looked at things like, for our calendaring system, we looked at web events. UT also has a calendar. The problem was none of these systems allowed us to control access. So we couldn't say, well, we're putting this event on the calendar, but really it's just for faculty, and we don't want the world looking at it. And we also wanted to control who could enter in data. So we didn't want every student just putting in their own events. We wanted to control which ones specifically. So we had to build our own. It also had to integrate with our existing systems. And we were able to bring it up pretty quickly. The nice thing about this, like I said, is we have a whole system that controls which student organizations are officially recognized and which ones are not. And only the officially recognized organizations can actually put in events. What's also nice is that it's tied into, we kind of have a little dummy portal. And as you can see in the top left corner, if there were events going on today in the calendar, it would have pulled it into this page. We also have a different system called Law Mail, and it's an email announcement system. Same thing, student organizations and also departments can email students who subscribe, and those can also be placed on this announcements page. Once again, it's all integrated because it's all built on the same system. It all talks to each other. All the data is live. It works really well for us. Oops, and I lost my thing. There it is. We just brought something up last week, actually, called the Law School Directory. It's an interesting problem where there was no way to tell who actually worked at the law school at any time. And so, you know, the HR records were pretty good, but the problem was there were people who worked in both the law school and the business school, or the law school and somewhere else, and we had real difficulty saying, well, this person is a law school employee. So what we did was we built this law school directory. It replaced 3 different print directories that were maintained by 3 different people, and that was independent of the HR system. And people were concerned about their privacy. They didn't want their direct numbers in this list. So we built this whole directory system. What's neat is we also put in pictures. Of course, they're going to kill me because now I'm showing you the pictures. They're not watching. Oops. As you can see, authentication is through UT EID. We have a single login for the entire campus for almost absolutely everything. So as you can see, we now have this lovely directory, and you can even look at it by departments. Oops. So you can see who works in what departments. And we were never able to do this before. I mean, it seems kind of silly, but we really were not able to do this before. And in the future, the goal is that this will actually become the back end for some of our website stuff. So for example, our list of faculty members will be pulled from this information. Our faculty bios, their degrees will also be pulled from this information. Who their contact, the contact information, who their secretaries are, absolutely everything will be pulled out of here. So our idea is to reuse the information as much as we possibly can. Now the fun part of all this is how do we integrate with main campus? We are unique in that the University of Texas has this huge training program, and they hire, I think they get something like 3,000 applications a year for this program. They have to take this rigorous IQ test that IBM apparently uses, and of those, only 300 generally get an A. And of those who get an A, they have to go through an interview process, and they hire approximately 50 of them a year. And then they go through a 6-month training program, and they get farmed out to all the different departments on campus. So that's where we get our programmers. Now the problem with using university services, as you all probably well know, is that you're a very small fish. Who really cares that you use A+, because nobody else does on campus. This is, a very common problem. So our solution has been to build our own systems that parallel the university. And our course management system, for example, we actually have our own course assignment system because we wanted to give students preference. The main campus system just does it randomly. We wanted to give your third year preference over a first year, for example, or second year. And the main campus couldn't do that. The other thing that we found is by building our own systems, it gives us a lot more leverage with the main campus because they really want us to work with them, and we really do want to work with them. But if we always have that ability to say, well, if you can't do this for us, we'll just build our own system, and they don't like that. So generally, they try to play ball with us. I think more than if we didn't have this ability to build our own system, because otherwise you're stuck with whatever they give you, because they know you have no alternative. Yes?
Are you double inputting them?
No, absolutely nothing is double inputted. It's all passed through overnight.
Well, the problem we would have is that the university we required the main campus to input the student information, class schedule, all that information first, and then somehow get it back. Is that what you're basically doing, or are you doing it?
No, we have a pre-registration system. So our students, go through a very early registration system. It goes through that, the assigning of classes, and then we upload everything to the main campus. That's where they do all their drop ads, is on the main campus system. And then at the end of the semester, we take it all back, and then we have our own grading system because, we have pluses and minuses, and they don't. So we have our own grading system. So we take it all back, and then we pass the grades back. Yes?
What do you do with transcripts?
We have our own transcript system. Yeah. Well, they call it an unofficial transcript. Yeah. And the problem is because our law students want they want a law school GPA. The main campus can't do that. They can only do a UT GPA. So if you went to undergrad and you did terribly and you did really well in law school, there's no way to get a GPA for just law school. So that's why we have our own transcript system also. So as you can see, it's a lot of extra work, but this is, a decision that the law school made is that we would pay for it. The staffing is a big issue. I have a big staff. I have 3 mainframe programmers, I have 1 web programmer, and then I have 1 educational technologist who's also a / programmer. But the good thing about this, and Ken and I were talking about this, is that these are all people with really strong database management backgrounds. And this is something, as I'm going around, there are a couple things that I see when people complain about for building systems. The complaints are, maintenance, they go out of date. Well, if you have no one on staff and you just build a system and then you do nothing else with it, yeah, it's going to go out of date. So this is something that we constantly have to fiddle with. We're constantly updating it to the newest version, we're making changes, and this is a cost that we bear. The other thing that happens is, you have somebody who has a great idea for something, and they build it. Well, that's great, but because of the way they designed it, it's now not portable, or that particular piece of software is no longer available, and you can't export the data anywhere else. This is all stuff that we avoid because we participate in the main campus. They have a very strong program of training, and we have to follow their rules. So we have very well-built systems. And in fact, every time we try to build something, they have to do walkthroughs with the main campus to make sure that everything is set up the way they think it should be set up. So, I guess the thing I hope you would take away from this is that database management is extremely important. It is not a skill that just your average web programmer is going to have. And, I highly encourage you to try and hire somebody who actually has some background in this, or at least get somebody trained in the whole idea of database management, because it is a very important part of it. So, any questions? Or should we wait? You want to wait till the end, or? Oh, okay, Franz?
Do you approach this question from build first and work your way to the buy decision, or do you start from buy and then work your way to the build?
We always look at buy first, actually. Every time we have something new, we think, okay, well, what's out there? And, oops. What's out there? What products are out there? Does it integrate with what we have? And most of the time we can't, because that single authentication system is really killer. I mean, you cannot replace it. Every student can log in. I mean, even our wireless network, it uses that same UTEID. Absolutely everything on campus is UTEID. And so to go away from that would be a tremendous loss for us. So to us, that's important enough to actually, pay for the difference and build it ourselves. Let me give you the mic here, Ken.
Can you hear me? My name is Ken, and I'm a Western. Some subtle differences here at Western versus University of Texas. We tend to deal a lot with the main campus, and we tend to buy our systems mainly off of the racks. So we don't have to deal with the customization of things, and we don't have to deal with main campus being mad at us. And I'm sure all of you know about that. Okay. If you have questions, feel free to chime in at any time. Main university admin systems. Originally, there were main systems that we had, okay? And most of the systems that we had, we did in-house mods to them on the mainframe itself. Okay. Most of the graduate schools do use their own, do use this main system on the mainframe. What was we tried to adopt the system when they moved away from mainframe and went to a decentralized distributed network, so to speak, client server stuff. We didn't want to reinvent the wheel, so we moved in essence with them so that we would have synergies among the staff, and we would also have synergies among the schools itself. But that presented some problems, as you'll see as we move forward. And one system I'm sure you're all familiar with is the Voyager. Voyager is an online catalog with the library, where basically main campus said, we're going to buy Voyager. Does the law library want it? And so we were created as a entity within Voyager to accept books and do all of that fun stuff that librarians do. Okay. New systems were done by Endeavor. We don't go into Voyager and do modifications on them. And we don't contract out to say we don't like what Endeavor is doing, so please do what we want you to do or we won't use it. And it's used by mostly all of the libraries within the university, and that's how we have been doing business since Voyager was implemented. I have here some video clips that talks about this. And let me know if you can hear this or not. I turned the volume down. What Stu and David was talking about, there are in-house programmers here, but we program around Voyager. Another thought, Caesar, CS, in 1989, made the decision to move away from its old soft. We bought it, then we customized it to what we did. There were in-house programmers. Transition, the nightmares around. It was very spendy. Not to say that it wasn't expensive, it was. Okay. New system mods are done in and used within all of them. the reason with and said, what do you believe will best fit your need? Survey came. Now, he knows about the hostile takeover. Believe that Oracle's takeover will happen. Does and his way, he's going to basically chop up PeopleSoft. Everybody that has PeopleSoft now will be. So there's a choosing. You're aware of the item. The thing you're going to on the systems that we thought that would and then went. Is it off? Okay. I'm sorry? Only admissions. For the law school, for the financial aid part, we did our own. We have our own at the law school. We use, also on the admission side, we have what is known as AdmitM for admissions on the law side. There is an interface PeopleSoft currently that will interface AdmitM with PeopleSoft. That the main university has, and basically it's a collection of everything in terms of what students need once they step foot on campus. Okay, this was a collaborative effort from the universities, and the new applications are done in-house. Does this go to law students? Yes. We purchase it through the university, and what they do is we give it out during orientation to all the JDs, LMs, JD MBAs, anybody that wants it, and they can actually access all the systems that the main university has, and it works very well. There's another CD that is also given out. It's called the NewNet CD, which is in correlation with this Getting Connected CD. And that contains a lot of the software that they need to be loaded on their machine, because Northwestern Law has a required notebook program. And that CD has all of the antivirus and Netscape or whatever, Eudora, email stuff that they have that the students can use. And then there's one more system here that I want to talk about, is the Alumni and Development System. It basically is called the BSR system, database system, and we basically buy it from a company and then build or customize it. But mostly those customizations are kind of rare. We don't really want to customize it too much, because what it is, again, the guts of it, we don't want to reinvent the engine. We keep the engine intact, and whatever is customizable, we do. On a global scale, the graduate schools, they all want their own unique look to the front-end web page, let's say, for giving. Okay? So what we've done is have each school put their own banner on top for the annual giving, but use the same BSR engine for the alumni so that it can feed all the information and data into the main system.
See, as students graduate from Northwestern, they remain connected to the school via Advanced BSR, a client-server system that tracks biographical data and gifts from Northwestern alumni.
Technology has brought tremendous change to the Department of Northwestern.
The BSR system was done for the Alumni Development Division. It's designed to support all the activities related to both fundraising and alumni record keeping.
The project started because we had been using an old mainframe system. Development had grown tremendously in the last few years, and the system we had in place didn't serve our needs.
You know, you take something as simple as mailing items to a select group of prospects or contacts that somebody has. It used to be that the end users would need to call somebody in a centralized reporting group, make a request, and depending on how critical the request was and who was available to work on it, they would wait at least a day, sometimes days, sometimes weeks to get these labels for their mailing. Now they can deliver them to themselves on the desktop on an instant basis.
The new product offered us the opportunity not only to store more data, but to make it user-friendly. I look up the alumni record, I can see that that person is a college graduate because it basically spells it out.
But I think what's also noteworthy is nobody's been overwhelmed. Nobody has felt that this is technology that is consuming them. I think everybody's been able to make the transition to the new system and operate on the level that they need to operate. Again, without much disruption.
I think that the future of alumni relations will be partnership with technology. We need technology to reach alumni. They're not all in Evansville anymore.
Let's just start the debate now.
Do we have questions or comments?
So, do all these different systems talk to each other? You're storing data, which is recorded. Does data travel back and forth between the different systems?
Yes. Data does travel back and
Northwestern
forth.
leads the field in supporting research with technology and developing new technology through.
Yes, data pours back and forth.
Yeah. I'll just mention that I'm at the University of Georgia, and it's been about 3 years now, and we made the decision to get onto a relational database. And it's certainly new at our institution to this day to have everybody using exactly the same data. So that's an experience that is not easy. The guy was saying, it's easy, it's easy. I'm very, very cautious about people making those claims.
Well, and the other thing is he was saying, well, the old mainframe system, it would take days and someone would have to approve it. And it's like, well, clearly they did not maintain the mainframe system properly. Our mainframe system does not do that. If you want a set of mailing labels, you click a few buttons, boom, it comes out in the machine room, it gets delivered to you. I mean, it's all in how you maintain the system. And so I think a lot of these universities dump their own mainframe systems because they simply do not maintain it properly. And any system that you get from now on is going to have the same problem. So like your relational database, you're going to spend all this effort into getting it to work. And the question is, long term, 10 years from now, are you going to have enough resources to keep making it better, to keep making it do what you need to do? And I think what happens is a lot of people just let it drop off the face of the earth, and then you're stuck. And then you say, well, okay, our system's so bad that whatever we buy has to be better. That's not always the case. And especially PeopleSoft, not to slam PeopleSoft or anything, but I think what happened is, it came, and a lot of these SAP, a lot of these companies came out of the business environment. They had no idea how it worked in the university, and I think the universities ended up training them. And I think, that's why our university decided not to participate in that, because we thought, well, this is silly. Why should we pay $100 million to teach them how we do our business? Because this is our business. We're best at it. This is our business process. We are not going to change our process to fit whatever you're able to do. And that's what's happening in a lot of these schools, is that you're having to change your business process in order to fit PeopleSoft or whomever's idea of how your school should be run. And I think that's a very dangerous precedent that you have to be careful about. So, and the other problem with it is when you buy, is that company is still going to be in existence. You've got J.D. Edwards and PeopleSoft potentially going bye-bye, and where are you going to be next year? Now that you've spent all this money, building PeopleSoft to fit what you need, it's a risky endeavor.
See, what part of the decisions that we made to go to a distributed network or client server system was mainly predicated on Y2K also. When we noticed that the mainframe was going to be a dinosaur soon, we had to choose something. Because 2000 was coming. We knew that the year 2000 was going to be a big project impact, and hence we moved towards that way. I'm not saying that it's a perfect system, but we believe that it is a better system than what we have now. I mean, the mainframe system, we had to house so many developers for mainframe applications. There was no way that we were going to keep supporting the staff in terms of adding more staff, more personnel just to administrate these systems. There was just no way to do that.
Yeah, but that's a token. When you do have your own developers in-house, you can do whatever you want. I mean, literally, anything you want. Student affairs suddenly decides that this particular student, this grade, is not going to show up for this particular student ever. We can do that. And then the question is, can you do that in another system that you bought? And the answer is probably not. So, sorry.
I'd like to play the devil's advocate to that point. Oftentimes we find that when we custom build systems, the requirements constantly change, and they know that we custom built it and that we can change it.
Right, so the problem is with constantly changing requirements. And what we've done at UT is they're starting, we don't really do this so much, but they're just starting this process called versioning. So the idea is that you set up, and it's almost like we're a profession. We run almost like a company. We say, this is what we will provide, this is what you've spec'd out, and you will agree to this, and you will sign this. And when we're done, this is what you're going to get. And then that's what they get. And then if they have anything else they want to add, it becomes version 2. So it's the idea is that there's got to be an end to it. So,
yeah, I come from the land of time. I was one of the University of Washington. Legacy systems are the core of the mainframe system, and all of our mainframes made for Y2K problems. They did do some programming changes, a lot of databases for that. But what their approach on the main campus is they have a big concentration of web programmers interfacing with the legacy system.
right.
And they're coming up with some very ingenious ways that one of which you displayed, unified log and control system. You know, they did that, just which don't wait. But at the departmental level, it's different. We are completely in-house with practically everything. The one exception that we made, which was a big debate in the administration, was in the emissions database. They wanted, after going to some conference, see, the demo, they got in the end for a large sum of money. 3 months later, they wanted the home run back. And we had since then, scrapped it, in the journal. Since it cost much money, the administration refused their desire to have home run back. And so from that standpoint, I wondered if anybody's had the same experience with going from in-house to homegrown. In-house to cookie cutter and that type of thing.
Question was, is there anyone experienced going from a cookie cutter system back to homegrown? I have not seen anything in Northwestern doing something like that. It was basically a decision that was made to move from the mainframe development system onto cloud server.
We did. We had a career services line, and through some misunderstandings, so before my time, through some strange misunderstandings, career services ended up with the attorney. And, as soon as they got it, it's clearly limited versus something where you can customize it to whatever you want. But, e-attorney is cheap compared to the, time that my developers had to spend doing it. And so, for me, I keep hoping e-attorney will live a very long and happy life. And I believe Martindale-Hubbell just bought them, so hopefully they'll live an even longer happy life.
Question back there. Oh, actually, just a statement. The University of Georgia system, we all went from mainframe to Banner, and Banner was such a terrible fit for us. What's happened is it's caused a lot of homegrown systems to come up to do the things that Banner just does not do at all. Even simple things like, printing out class rolls, just doing simple little stuff like that. Only professors can do that, but there's no way that even our admissions and registrar people can do that, or do it in such a way that's actually conducive to their business processes. And kind of what's happened is instead of, they pretty much just kind of what's been said is they kind of says, okay, well, we've decided that you're going to do things our way, whereas we do things a totally different way. And that didn't fit. So we had to write a lot of custom applications, not just in law school, throughout the university. And the general feeling about that cookie cutter solution was it's just a terrible idea that we're stuck with it. So to some degree, we have gone back to homegrown systems.
So the main goal for your school at least was you tried it, and you went back to homegrown systems.
Well, sort of. We're still using the Banner system, but basically what we've done is that there's a lot of pieces that Banner doesn't do. So we're just basically going to the Oracle backend and pulling out and making a lot of custom apps to pull data out of the system to do the things that really fit the business process that we actually do.
I just thought I'd say that from a law school point of view, law school at the University of Georgia, who are different, we have users all the time go to conferences, all the time convinced that they want to use another product because they're frustrated with the implementation or something like that. And one thing that we did that I think was a good idea is we had all of our users come to a number of vendor presentations, then we talked with the vendors in some detail, then we got all of our users in a room before lunchtime and said, you guys decide. And so we had each department actually decide which vendor we would choose. And we think that they made a pretty good choice. But another thing that was mentioned, or maybe I saw it in your clip, our administration is tremendously unrealistic about what a database needs in this day and age. So I think that, unfortunately, we as the technology people have a huge burden to carry in terms of communicating all kinds of things, because people do not know where to place their expectations. I don't know where to place my expectations half the time, the truth of the matter. But it's really difficult, especially too, and we need to make more of an effort when it comes to the administration. It's really frustrating, because they really do think that we're going to get to the end of the road and everything's going to settle down and everything's going to be fine. It's not going to happen.
It's kind of funny for us, the whole going to conference thing, it's kind of a scary thing. You never know what they're going to see, and you never know what they're going to come back with. But, 9 times out of 10, it's like, look, we can already do all those things, or if we can't, we can build it. And that generally takes care of it. I mean, they're really, I think most of them realize, well, we can build it. So, but it is a difficult thing at conferences. We need to stop people from going to conferences and be out.
We thought about the building effort. However, in terms of dwindling resources and costs and everything like that, we said, no, let's not reinvent the wheel. See what Maine University is doing. See if we can stamp on the modules to assist to showing the information or passing the information back. Now, I can say that we are not very efficient in terms of database management. And June alluded earlier that we talked about that. She has everybody on her staff that does and know database administration. Right now, it's just my web people, and they're tasked with being database administrators. They can't do that and do web stuff for the entire school. It's not possible. So now we're looking for a position of DBA for the entire school.
And what you'd be surprised to find is if you actually hire a DBA, or if you do some data analysis in your school, is that everybody has a little pocket of information, and everybody's maintaining probably the exact same piece of information. When I first took over my job, I was talking to our financial aid lady, and this woman was retyping 1,000 addresses so she could send out scholarship letters. And she did not realize that she could download the list from the mainframe. And it just shocked me. And this is a woman who'd been here a long time, and I don't know what happened. It's lack of communication. I don't know what it was, but what you'll find is that there are these little pockets of people who just decide that they can do it better themselves, and they decide to build their own database. And so what we try to do is, first of all, the software hardware guys, the CIC, they contact us every time anybody requests a database install. So if anybody says, oh, I want access on my computer, they have to go through my office first. We talk to them about why do you want it, what are you using it for.
It's a control thing.
Yes. But you have to, because the thing is, when that person leaves, guess who's going to be stuck with that problem? It's me. And it already happened to me once where we have these bricks, that the alumni can buy bricks, and I'm telling you stories now. But anyway, she built this lovely database that had pictures of bricks so that you could see which brick you were in. Well, the problem was, she built this database, every single brick was a separate field. And so she had this database that had like 400 fields in it, and it kept growing because she didn't have enough fields. And we looked at it and this is really silly. Why didn't you just use coordinates? So now I'm stuck with this brick database, which I have to somehow recover. And the really dumb thing is the gift information part of it is already on our system. So we already know who gave the money for that brick and what was on it. So somehow we just have to tie it into our existing database. But somehow this database got built, and now I'm stuck with it. So, yes.
I just wanted to make it kind of more point in relation to this. With us, we learned the hard way that making policy part of life is very important, especially when people can install software and what sorts of applications they install. Case in point, SQL Signer. Our network got taken down 3 or 4 times with that because of better software that people installed that we didn't know about. So that's something to keep in mind as you're approaching this issue as well.
For show of hands, how many people here have built systems or customized systems?
more specific.
Customized systems that they prefer to customize versus going out and buying. You prefer to customize it within your own school, and even though you see a product out there, you'd rather customize it.
Well, some of us don't have the flexibility to do that. We just don't have the programming staff, time, eligible for that.
You see, this is the funny part. To me, it's like, well, if you're buying, it's not a one-time cost. I mean, you buy a system, there's a maintenance cost to all of it. And so, what about that money? It's like, to me, it's the same. It's like, you can either say, I'm going to spend 30, 40, 50,000 on a programmer, or I'm going to spend a couple $100,000 immediately, and then the same, maybe 10, 20,000 down the road. So, I don't know, to me, it's kind of apples and oranges. It's the same amount of money.
Also, in our situation, it's a little different. We all have a campus that does most of the stuff. We're in the tenant law school where we have to do everything. We have to be all with 2 people. You know what I'm saying? So the situation is somewhat different.
Sorry, Bill.
We can get money for software. We cannot get money for staff. The university looks upon that as a failure to add staff to get something done. And our president has as much as said that. Every time someone is added to the university staff, we just think that's a failure of the system. So we can get funding for almost an indefinite amount of money as long as we couch it in a project fashion as opposed to a personnel.
Which plugs another session tomorrow if you're going to be there about IT budgeting.
One thing, that's just a comment that I find is with purchase systems, the interface is always completely different, and we like to have a lot of our people cross-trained, and on our own custom-built systems, we maintain the same user interface classes, and so it's the same interface, it's the same method of doing things, so it actually saves a lot of training time for the end users, and they're less likely to build, create their own access database, because they're familiar with the intranet site. They're more likely to fiddle around and play and find out what's there. So.
And I should say, in the financial aid story I was telling you about, the reason this woman didn't know is because it was a pure mainframe interface that she was stuck with. There was no web front end to it. And so that was, that was our failure in that we did not get a chance to build that yet. So I don't blame her, actually. She found it easier to retype 1,000 addresses than get us to redo that. I don't know. We've got 2 minutes. One last question? Great. Thank you all for coming.